What are the tiny wood projects that sell so fast you cannot build them fast enough to keep them on the table? There are about 17 of them, most made from the scrap already piling up in your shop, and every one has walked off a craft fair table in front of me while I was still setting up the next batch. I have run a garage shop for more than 25 years, and for most of them I thought the money in woodworking was in big furniture. It is not for most of us. The money, the stuff that actually sells out, is small, cheap to make, and fast to batch. The projects you can cut a dozen of from a bin of offcuts on a slow Sunday. Stay with me to the end, because the one I saved for last looks like the most expensive, most complicated thing on the whole table, and it is secretly one of the fastest and cheapest to make, which is exactly why it sells. And right in the middle is the little novelty item that people physically cannot walk past without picking it up, which is half the battle at a market. Before the list, one honest thing, because I am not going to blow smoke. Selling out is not automatic. These projects are proven sellers, but what actually moves them is three things: decent quality, a fair price, and the right venue. A craft fair, a farmer's market, a brewery, or an online shop. Build junk, price it wrong, or show up at the wrong table, and even a great product sits there. Get those three right, and these 17 move. That is the deal, straight up. Start with the one that pays the rent at every craft fair, the serving board. Not a cutting board, a serving board, a charcuterie board, the kind people set out cheese and meat on. You make them from hardwood offcuts, the very cut-offs you were about to burn, cut to a nice shape, maybe with a handle, or a shallow juice groove routed around the edge. The reason these sell is that everybody entertains and everybody wants a nice board, and you can price a small one at $25 to $40 for a couple dollars of scrap and an hour of work. One critical rule though, finish it food safe, mineral oil and beeswax, never a hard poly or a lacquer, because this touches food and a customer will ask. Food-grade mineral oil is recognized by the FDA as safe for food contact, which is exactly why it is the standard for boards. And a jar of a board conditioner like Howard Butcher Block runs about $10 and does a stack of them. Keep the boards on the thicker side, around 3/4 of an inch, about the thickness of a fat marker, because a chunky board reads as quality and a thin one reads as cheap. A food-safe board is the single most reliable seller in the small wood world, and end-grain boards, where the wood fibers stand up like a bundle of straws facing you, sell for double a plain one. Second on the list is the strongest seller for our exact crowd, and it is the wooden American flag. You build it from thin slats, char or stain the stripes, and set in a star field that you either carve, paint, or route into a corner. People buy these on site, no convincing needed, and the rustic weathered look and the service branch versions, Army, Navy, and the rest, sell fastest of all. A flag may be 20 inches long, about the length of your forearm, uses a few dollars of pine, and sells for $60 to well over $100 depending on detail. Nothing on this list has a better ratio of emotional pull to material cost. Build them in two sizes, a small desk or shelf flag, and a big wall flag, because the small one is an impulse buy, and the big one is the one somebody comes back for. A tip that saves you hours: do not hand-carve 50 stars. Either route a recessed star field and paint it, or use a stencil, or set in a single laser-cut star field you buy in bulk. The flags where I tried to hand-cut every star took forever, and did not sell for a dime more than the routed ones. Batch the slats, char, and finish them all at once, and you can build a stack of flags in the time one takes if you do them one at a time. The third is a small item that flies off the table and doubles as a groomsman gift: the wall-mounted bottle opener. It is a hardwood backplate a few inches wide, a cast iron opener screwed to the front, and the touch that sells it is this: a hidden magnet strip behind the wood that catches the bottle caps as they drop so they do not hit the floor. That magnet detail is what turns a plain opener into a 15-minute build you can sell for $20 to $30. You want a couple of small neodymium magnets, the strong rare earth kind, about the size of a nickel, set into a shallow pocket behind the wood, and covered with a thin back panel, and they will hold a surprising stack of caps right there on the wall. A pack of those magnets is about $10 and does a dozen openers. Cheap parts, fast to batch, and it photographs well online, which matters, because half of these sell from a phone screen now. Fourth is the novelty piece I promised you, the one nobody walks past. It is a wine bottle balancer. It is a single small board with one angled hole bored through it, and when you slip a full wine bottle into that hole, the whole thing balances on its edge and holds the bottle out at an angle like it is floating in midair. It looks like a magic trick, and it is just physics. The weight of the bottle over the balance point. One board, one hole, a few minutes, and people cannot keep their hands off it at a market. The whole trick is the angle of the hole, bored at roughly 45 degrees through a board about the size of your hand, so the balance point lands right under the neck of a full bottle. Keep one set up on your table with a bottle in it, balancing, the entire time, because that live demo is what stops the foot traffic. That is worth its weight in gold at a fair, because the thing that makes people stop and touch is the thing that makes them buy. And this one sells for $20 to $35 off a scrap you would have thrown away. The fifth project rides a trend and sells to a specific buyer, the beer or whiskey flight paddle. A flight is a set of small tasting pours, and the paddle is a flat board with 4 holes or slots that hold 4 little glasses in a row. Breweries and distilleries buy these by the dozen for their tasting rooms, and every person shopping for a gift for a guy who likes beer buys one too. The trick is to size the holes to a standard taster glass, the little 4-ounce ones, so buyers can actually use it, and drill them on a drill press with a stop, so all 4 sit at the same depth. Walk a few samples into your local brewery and you may land a standing order, which is steadier money than any fair. They batch fast on a drill press, and a nice one sells for $25 to $45. We are about at the halfway point, so the thread running under all 17 of these. None of these is hard. Not one requires a skill you do not already have. What they require is that you make them clean, in batches, from cheap stock, and put them in front of the right buyer. The craft is not the hard part. The batching and the selling is. Keep that in mind for the back half, because the projects only get faster and cheaper from here. The sixth is a quiet heirloom seller that older buyers love, the cribbage board. Cribbage is a card game scored by moving pegs along a track of drilled holes, and the board is just that track. 2 or 3 rows of small holes drilled in a nice piece of hardwood, with a little compartment for the pegs. The magic is a drilling jig, a template that spaces the holes for you, because once you build the jig, you can drill a whole board in a few minutes and crank out a stack of them. The holes are tiny, about 1/8 of an inch, the thickness of a wire coat hanger, and there are 120 of them per player track, so without a jig you would lose your mind and your accuracy. With the jig, a drill press, and a stop, it is fast and every board comes out identical. Personalize one with a name or a lake house, and it becomes a gift people pay $40 to $70 for, and the older crowd at a fair buys these without blinking. Seventh is your holiday goldmine if you batch ahead, Christmas ornaments. Small shapes, snowflakes, trees, stars, personalized round discs with a family name and a year, cut from thin scrap on a scroll saw or a bandsaw. They are tiny, they eat your smallest offcuts, and you can make dozens in a single session. Batch them in the fall, and they sell out at holiday markets in December every single time, usually at $8 to $15 each, which adds up fast when someone buys 6. The move is to pick 3 or 4 simple shapes, make a template for each, and run production style. Cut all the blanks, then sand all of them, then finish all of them, instead of finishing each ornament start to finish. That production line approach cuts your time per piece way down, and it is how you end up with a basket of 80 ornaments from a few evenings of scrap work. Drill a small hole for the ribbon before you finish, not after, or you will chip the finish every time. Eighth is a project that sells to just about everybody, because it is useful, the wall key rack and mail organizer. A backboard, a few hooks, and a slot or a little shelf to hold the mail by the door. Everybody loses their keys, and everybody has a pile of mail, so this one sells on pure practicality, and it uses up the narrow offcuts that are too small for much else. Add a name or a word like home, and the price goes up for basically no extra work. Include a couple of drywall anchors or screws in a little bag with it, so the buyer can hang it the day they get home, and that small touch of making it ready to use sets your piece apart from the one next to it. A practical rack like this sells for $25 to $45, more with a nice routed edge. The ninth is a strong Father's Day and desk gift, the phone dock and valet tray. A little stand that holds a phone upright at a good angle while it charges, usually with a slot the charging cable runs through, and a shallow tray beside it for keys, a watch, and a wallet. Set the backrest at around a 15-degree lean so the screen faces up at a person sitting at a desk, and route a channel underneath for the cable so it stays hidden. Men are hard to buy gifts for, and this solves that, so it sells hard around June and the holidays. A few dollars of wood, an evening of work, and $30 to $50 at the table. 10th turns your very smallest cutoffs into cash. The tea light and candle holder. Take a block of wood, drill a hole with a Forstner bit, which is a bit that bores a clean, flat-bottomed hole exactly the size of a tea light. Drop the candle in, done. A standard tea light is about 1.5 inches across, roughly the width of a golf ball, so a 1.5-inch Forstner bit, about $12, is the only special thing you need. Leave a live edge, the natural bark edge of the board, on one side and it looks high-end. One safety note, keep a real tea light in a metal cup. Never let open flame sit straight on the wood, and tell your buyer the same. This is about as fast as a project gets. A single hole in a block, and a row of 3 sells for $20 to $35. The 11th is the trendy little one that photographs beautifully for online sales, the bud vase. You drill a block or turn a small form and drop in a slim glass test tube that holds water and a single flower stem. The wood never touches the water. The tube does, so any wood works. Even a punky spalted scrap that would be useless for anything structural. The tubes are cheap, about 5 inches long, the length of a new pencil, and you buy them by the bag online. They are tiny, cheap, they use figured scrap that shows off nicely, and they sell in sets online where the photo does the selling for you at $15 to $25 each. 12th pairs right up with your serving boards on the same table, the trivet. A trivet is the pad that protects your table from a hot pot. Make them as a ring of segments or as slats spaced in a frame, from pure scrap, and they are useful, they are cheap, and a customer buying a serving board very often grabs a matching trivet on the way out. A nice one is a ring of angled segments glued up like a little wheel, which uses tiny offcuts and shows off mixed woods, and it sells for $15 to $30 on its own. That is the trick with trivets. They are the add-on sale that pads every ticket, so keep a stack of them right next to the boards. The 13th is one of the biggest small wood sellers online, the personalized kid's name puzzle. You cut a child's name in chunky letters that lift out of a tray, from scrap, on a scroll saw or a bandsaw. Keep the letters fat and rounded. No thin, fragile serifs, both so they survive a toddler, and so they cut easily. And paint each letter a different bright color, which is what makes them pop in an online photo. Parents and grandparents buy these constantly, personalized, and they will pay $30 to $50 for a name because it is one of a kind. Simple wooden toys ride along here too. Little push cars, spinning tops, stacking rings, all classic fair sellers cut from offcuts. One safety rule: anything a small child will put in their mouth gets a food-safe finish, and no small parts that come loose. Same mineral oil and beeswax as the boards. Now I owe you some honesty on the next 3, because they are strong sellers, but they need one tool a lot of you do not have: a lathe, which is the machine that spins a piece of wood so you can shape it with a chisel as it turns. If you do not have a lathe, skip these 3, and there are still 14 projects on this list you can build. But if you do have one, these are some of the highest margin small items there are. 14th is the turned pen. A pen kit gives you the metal parts, you turn a wooden barrel from a small blank, often a scrap of figured wood, and assemble it. A pen blank is a little stick about 3/4 of an inch square and 5 inches long, about the size of a fat marker, and a slimline pen kit runs about $5 to $8. 10 minutes of turning once you have the hang of it, a couple dollars of parts, and a nice wooden pen sells for $25 to $40 and more for exotic woods. They are the classic lathe seller for a reason, and they batch well because you can rough out a whole tray of blanks in one session. The 15th is the turned bottle stopper. Same idea, a stopper kit with a food-safe stainless base, and you turn a little decorative wooden top from a scrap of something figured. Fast, cheap, high margin, and a proven impulse buy at $15 to $30 that people grab without thinking twice. 16th steps up in price, the pepper mill or salt grinder. A grinder mechanism kit goes inside a wooden body you turn, and because it is a real functional kitchen tool, it carries a higher price, often $40 to $80. It takes more wood and more time than a pen, but the ticket is bigger, and kitchen shoppers at a fair pay for a good one. Now the 17th, the one I held for the end, because on the table it looks like the most expensive, most complicated piece you make. And here is the secret. It is one of the fastest and cheapest. It is the band saw box. You take a single solid block of wood, and on the band saw, which is the saw with a thin blade running in a loop that lets you cut curves, you slice off the back, cut a curved drawer or two out of the middle, hollow those drawers, and glue the back on. When you are done, you have a sculptural little keepsake or jewelry box with curved drawers that pull out, and it looks like hours of fine joinery. It is not. There is no joinery at all. It is a few curved cuts in one block of wood, and the grain flows unbroken across the whole thing because it all came from one piece, which is what makes it look so expensive. A band saw box from a scrap block sells for $40 to $90, and people cannot believe it started as one chunk of firewood. Start with a block about the size of a brick. Glue up a couple of contrasting scraps if you want stripes, and the whole thing comes off the saw in under an hour once you have made a few. The first one you make will be rough, the drawers a little tight, and that is fine, because by the third one you will have the feel and they come out clean. That gap between how hard it looks and how fast it actually is the whole reason it sells out. A quick word on where to sell these, because the venue matters as much as the build. A craft fair or a farmer's market is the best place to start, because you learn fast what your crowd actually reaches for, and you get cash in hand the same day. Etsy and Instagram move the small photogenic ones, the bud vases, the ornaments, the name puzzles, where a good photo does the work, though you fight the whole world for attention. Local is your edge. A brewery for the flight paddles, a wine shop for the balancers, a gift shop that takes a few pieces on consignment, and do not sleep on a local buy and sell group for the flags and personalized pieces, because those buyers are right in your town and there is no fee taken out. And price them so you actually make money, because this is where beginners give the work away. A rough rule makers use is to price at 3 to 4 times your material cost at the very least, then sanity check that it still pays you a wage you would accept for your time. If a board costs $3 in wood and finish, and takes you an hour, $12 is not a price, it is a donation. 30 to 40 is a price. Do not race to the bottom, because the person who prices too low does not sell more, they just work for free. A slightly higher price on a cleaner product with a good story beats cheap almost every time. I underpriced my whole first year, sold plenty, and made almost nothing, and the fix was not building faster. It was charging what the work was worth. That is really the lesson hiding in all 17. The projects that sell are not the ones that are hardest to make. They are the ones with the biggest gap between how much a buyer thinks they are worth and how little they actually cost you in wood and time. The flag, the balancer, the band saw box. They all look like more than they are, and they are all built from the scrap you were going to burn. Pick 2 or 3 of these, batch a dozen of each this month, finish them clean, and take them to one good local fair to test what your crowd buys. That is how you find your winners, and every maker's winners are a little different. Next time I want to build one of these start to finish, the band saw box, so you can see how one block of scrap becomes the piece everybody thinks you slaved over. Go make some sawdust, and go make some money.